I think that January of 2024 was the beginning of the period of corporate adoption of Bitcoin. And, that first big catalyst was the SEC's approval of spot ETFs for Bitcoin. The second big catalyst is going to be the SEC's denial of every other crypto application for a spot ETF. And the entire world was thinking, will the regulators ban Bitcoin? And we answered the question, no, it won't be banned. And then the next objection is, but will it be copied? And when we actually see the regulators deny the applications of the copies of other crypto assets, then we will have checked the box. It won't be banned, it won't be copied. And generally, when people if you're deciding whether to build a 100-story skyscraper and invest hundreds of millions of dollars on it, someone says, well, you either need to use steel or you need to use bronze. And you say, well, which one is the right one? And the answer is unclear. Well, it might be that the bronze is the right one and steel collapses, or it might be steel is the right one and bronze collapses. That paralyzes a big corporate project. But when you get past that and you realize, well, there's just steel, and there is no second best metal for structural civil engineering. Once you get to that point, the project moves forward because it's pretty obvious to the corporation they want the 100-story building. They just don't want to be paralyzed by the indecision and the fear of making the wrong choice. I think that the critical catalyst will be not just the institutional or the regulatory acceptance of Bitcoin as an institutional asset, but it'll also be the regulatory rejection of the alternatives.
The next major catalyst for Bitcoin is not what you might expect. According to Michael Saylor, it will be the rejection of every other crypto assets application for a spot ETF. Saylor believes we are at a pivotal moment as large institutional players start getting approvals to invest in Bitcoin. This means the window of opportunity for the average person is closing quickly. By 2028, the crypto landscape will be vastly different, with large corporations inevitably integrating Bitcoin into their financial strategies. Saylor predicts that institutions will begin making significant moves in the coming months, as Bitcoin has proven itself on the institutional stage and approvals are finalized. Saylor argues that Bitcoin will be the only crypto asset to achieve institutional acceptance and adoption. He expects this to become evident soon, as applications for Ethereum spot ETFs are denied by the SEC. However, stay tuned until the end of the video, as I will explain why I believe this prediction might be incorrect.
Stop, you don't have time. Don't miss out this 2025 bull run. Educate yourself first ahead of the crowd. We have created the ultimate step-by-step crypto cheat guide that will guide you this bull run. Unlock the secrets of crypto and make smarter investments today. Now by clicking on the link below to get your exclusive copy just under $10.
Back at the last 15 years, and you can say, well, from 2009 to 2020, that was the crypto cowboy years. Those offshore, wild, crazy times. And it was primarily pre-institutions, pre-corporations. I think from 2020 to 2024, those are the crazy years that, with COVID and lockdowns and zero interest rates. And that's when you started seeing Fidelity became much more visible with Fidelity Digital Assets, and Coinbase came public, and all the Bitcoin miners came public, and MicroStrategy adopted a Bitcoin strategy, and Square became Block, and Cash App grew by leaps and bounds, and Tesla bought Bitcoin. So that was the crazy middle period where the entire industry wasn't sure where it was going to go. 2024 kicked off the era of corporate adoption and institutional adoption of Bitcoin, where now that tension between our corporation, is this for corporations, is this for institutional investors, or is this just a retail offshore phenomenon? That got resolved in January, and by the end of 2024, it'll be pretty clear. The next 4 years, this is the early period of corporate adoption, institutional adoption. This is the period where BlackRock can go from nothing to having 100 billion or hundreds of billions of dollars of Bitcoin, right? So there's a struggle of who will securitize the ETF. And then this is the period when we'll see, some major banks banks in South America, a bank at Tau, or banks in Europe, or banks in the US that will become Bitcoin custodians. And which one and who will be the leader in that space? Well, we'll know by 2028. We're still waiting to see. And this is the year when you'll start to see large corporations adopting Bitcoin as a treasury asset. We'll have fair value accounting, and it'll become much more normal, and you'll start to see a universe of 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 companies that have some Bitcoin exposure. And I think once you get to 2028, from 2028 on to maybe 2040, that last 12 years, that'll be just breakneck growth. We'll see everything kind of working. We'll see 95% clarity as to how it's going to work. That'll be the growth years. And I think when you get to 2040, Bitcoin will be 30 years old. And we'll move the first 15 years were kind of adolescent childhood. The 15 years after that, the teenage, young adult years. And then it'll be like the first 30 years of the internet, right? And from there, it'll be a growth industry, but it'll be kind of a mature, well-understood growth industry. And every corporation will expect to work with it. Everybody will understand it. It won't be this crazy, exotic, complicated thing anymore. There are two primary reasons. There's a P&L reason. Bitcoin represents the world's first, greatest digital settlement network, digital monetary network, digital trust network. And we're going to have one session I'll have with David Marcus, and he'll be speaking about wiring dozens of companies into the Lightning Network for speedy, extremely cheap settlements. So if you're a company and you want to be able to move money at the speed of light, or if you want to implement the next generation of internet applications by using the Internet of Money, then you're going to be interested in this. It's like we're in the first year of corporate adoption of the Internet of Money. And just like in 1994, that was the first year of adoption of the internet. You would want to do it if you want to stay on the leading edge of digital transformation. The second reason the company want to do it is because the entire world is attempting to beat the cost of capital, and the cost of capital is about 12%. And the capital asset that most of them use is bonds, and bonds very rarely yield more than 3%. So all of their treasury portfolios are invested in something which is generating a minus 9%, a negative real yield. And Bitcoin generates a positive real yield. In the last 4 years, it's been 40 to 50%. So it's 4 times the cost of capital, but 2 times the cost of capital would be magical. And even equal to the cost of capital, if you could simply invest your capital at 12% and meet 12%, then your capital wouldn't be dilutive to your shareholders. So Bitcoin represents an opportunity on the P&L for technology leadership, and it represents an opportunity on the balance sheet to attract capital, preserve capital, and create shareholder value. If we go back to LightSpark's activities again, they've got dozens and dozens of corporate customers that are regulated, compliant entities that want to integrate Lightning in order to provide instant, cheap, final settlement. Each of those companies is operating in a different jurisdiction, perhaps with a different set of regulators, and they may have a different mission, right? The mission of a crypto exchange or a large-scale bank would be different than a simple money transmitter, and that might be different than an e-commerce company. So the reason we need corporations to be involved is corporations can afford to hire the array of lawyers, the array of financiers. They can put in place very expensive accounting systems, and those systems, will then have normally built into them all the various compliance rules, perhaps state by state, perhaps nation by nation. The rules for doing banking and money transfer in the UK will be different than France, will be different than California. So I think what you're going to see over the coming 4 years is progressive adoption of Bitcoin by a bunch of banks, a bunch of various regulated entities operating in every major jurisdiction. The rules regarding transfer are going to evolve. In some cases, they're clear. In some cases, they're hazy. In some cases, they're being contested. In some cases, they're very unclear and uncertain. I don't think that in 4 years, every question will be answered, but I do think 4 years from now, you'll have a lot more clarity than you have right now. And that clarity, to a certain degree, will come because of the entrance of the large entities in the space. For example, the success of the Fidelity and the BlackRock ETFs will accelerate clarity with regard to can NASDAQ and, or other stock exchanges trade options? Under what, when can they trade options? There's already interesting movement afoot for the New York Stock Exchange to start trading 24/7. That's been created by the crypto enthusiasm. So I think you're going to see an evolution of traditional finance organizations. I think you're going to see a lot of lobbying for more precise legal clarity and regulatory clarity. And you're going to see a lot of building both by new digital assets companies, as well as you're going to see all the traditional accounting and traditional finance operators. They're going to upgrade their systems in order to support this new Bitcoin-backed economy. And it's going to take a lot of money and a lot of accountants, a lot of lawyers, and a lot of thinking and some time. But because of that action, I think we'll get to a much better place.
Michael Saylor believes the next major development in Bitcoin's trajectory will be the denial of other crypto assets applications for a spot ETF. He argues that this will demonstrate that only Bitcoin will achieve institutional adoption and acceptance. However, I disagree with Saylor's prediction. I believe that Ethereum will also gain institutional adoption and acceptance, and we will eventually see the approval of a spot Ethereum ETF. There are two main reasons for this. First, the SEC has already approved Ethereum futures ETFs, which mirrors the process we saw with Bitcoin, first approving futures ETFs, then spot ETFs. Second, BlackRock, the largest asset manager in the world, has applied for an Ethereum ETF. BlackRock's track record is impressive, with 576 approvals and only one denial. Given their success rate, I believe an Ethereum ETF approval is inevitable, even if it doesn't happen this year. For more Daily Dose Crypto news, check out these two awesome videos on your screen. Click now and we will see you on the next video.